JD is here. Let's see. Give me just a moment to bring up the PowerPoint presentation. Share screen. Can you see the PowerPoint presentation? There we go.
See it now.
All right. All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is JD Wyzolek, and thank you for taking the time out to sit in on our 6-hour presentation. No, I'm just kidding. We'll get you done in an hour or less. All right. Um, My name is JD Wyzolek. I am the founder of azcollegeplanning.com, and I've been in this space since August of 2007. So I've been around the block a few times. I like to call this talk, You Don't Know What You Don't Know About College, but What You Really Need to Know About College, or How to Not Go Broke Paying for College. It all starts with the college ranking system. And you've probably heard uh, different rankings about different colleges. This college is ranked number one in biology. This college is ranked number 17 in engineering, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a dozen or more different publications that publish these college rankings booklets. What you need to know is that the college ranking system is very important to the college. So let me explain why. Have you asked yourself, why would a college give out any scholarships? Is it because they're generous and kind, or because they want or they need a specific student? And the answer is they want and need a specific student. Colleges ask this question of every applicant, and that is, how will this student impact our rankings? Will the student impact our rankings positive, neutral, or negative? If it's negative, they're just going to not admit that student. If it's neutral, well, maybe they'll admit the student and maybe they'll give them a teaser scholarship of $100 or maybe $1,000 or something like that. If it's positive, if the college looked at a student, and this is what we want, is we want the college to look at your student and say, yes, we need this student because this student will make a positive impact on our rankings. And when a college identifies that in a student, they will bend over backwards and try and recruit your student. And they'll do that by offering incentives, and the incentives that we want are scholarships. So whenever there's an upward trend in any category that's ranked, that attracts attention, and more attention means more applications and more application fees. I love the rivalries that go on between certain colleges, for example, UCLA and Berkeley. So this last year, UCLA knocked Berkeley off the podium and became the #1 public national university. We'll see what Berkeley does to try and regain that spot. Because of that, that attracted a lot of attention. And they had 149,900 students apply, and it costs $80 per application. So when you do the math, 145,000 times $80, that's $11.6 million that was generated just in application fees. So, of course, when a college identifies a student that they want, they're willing to kick back some money to that student in the form of scholarships because they're,
Okay, here's the scholarship thing, so I'm gonna get off the phone.
yeah, can you mute yourself,
All
please?
right, I'll talk to you. Oh, sorry about that. Sorry.
Thank you. So when a college identifies a student that they need because that student will have a positive impact on their rankings, they'll incentivize it by offering scholarships because they know that they're going to make it up on the back end by getting more application fees. So let me tell a quick little story about Lynn. When Lynn and her dad came into the office, I asked this question, and when you and your student come into the office, I'll ask the same question, and that is, what colleges are on your list? Do you have any dream schools? And Lynn's dad said
Is
she's
that already? So,
she's going to NAU because that's all I can afford.
I love you. Bye. Bye.
She's going to go to NAU because that's all I can afford. So I said, play the game, and part of playing the game is applying to somewhere between 6 and 12 colleges, 6 and 15 colleges. And we helped her identify a handful of schools. She applied to, I can't remember, I think it was like 7 or 8 colleges, and she was admitted to 5 of them. And uh, 2 of them fell off the wayside for one reason or another. And it came down to these 3 colleges: Willamette University in Oregon, Whitman College in the state of Washington, and of course, NAU. And in the process of all this, we helped her with her essays, helped her with her applications, showed her how to market and sell herself to the colleges. And we also helped her identify which colleges she should consider applying to. Well, the first college that admitted her was Willamette University. And Willamette offered her $25,500 in scholarships per year, and Dad's net cost was about 20 grand. Lynn was on cloud 9 for days, Dad not quite so much because we still have a $20,000 gap. Then the next college that admitted her was NAU, and after scholarships and all, Dad's net cost was $10,650. Dad says I could do that. I'd rather not pay that much. And then the last college that admitted her was Whitman College, and Whitman offered her $40,750 in scholarships per year. And Dad's net cost was $5,000. What was awesome was she got this same scholarship each of the 4 years that she attended that college. And it also, she had to do her job by getting a minimum GPA in order to renew the aid package, which I believe was a 3.0. She had over that. But what was also amazing was this scholarship also covered 2 study abroad. She did one in Peru and the other one in Japan. So here's the question. Why did they give her that amazing scholarship package? It's because that college needed her. She had a positive impact on one or more categories that was ranked that college valued. Yes, she had some good grades and decent test scores. However, one of the categories that she fit in was girl going into a mostly male dominated major. Don't ask me which one, I don't remember off the top of my head. Another category was Arizona kid going to this college in the state of Washington. So now Whitman can go back to those ranking publications and say, we have geographic diversity. We've got kids from here, there. We've got even got kids from Arizona. We've got kids all over the place. And that increases their rankings in those categories, which attracts more attention, and more attention means more applications and more application fees. And I'm really happy to report now it's Dr. Lynn. So she's finished her doctoral degree and all that. So find out what a college values and then do that. That's basically it. So in the case study of Lynn, we instructed her with her activities that she should focus on, what colleges she should apply to, how to properly showcase herself to colleges through demonstrating interest. And demonstrating interest is critical. We also helped her with her essays, helped her with her applications, and showed her how to follow up. She did all of those things, and the result was amazing. And I have literally hundreds of examples of that. So we're going to learn several acronyms. And the first acronym we're going to learn is COA, or cost of attendance. When we talk about cost of attendance, that's the all-in number. We want to know what that number is. That includes tuition, fees, lab fees, student ID card, parking pass, meal plan, dorm room, the whole gambit. We want to know what that number is. And in the case, in-state case of ASU, Arizona State University, the cost is $37,354. Now, if your student is looking at any of the other in-state schools, NAU or U of A, they all have similar costs. NAU is a little bit less, but it's marginal. It's about $500 to $1,000 less, but it's still marginal. If you haven't visited any colleges, please go visit some colleges. Now, if you live in the greater Maricopa County, please go visit these three schools: Arizona State University, Grand Canyon University, and Arizona Christian University. The reason why I'm asking you to go visit those three colleges if you live in this vicinity is because it's not a big time or money commitment. It's maybe 30-minute, maybe an hour drive to any one of these campuses, depending on where you live in the greater Maricopa County. So, and half an hour to an hour drive, and then a couple hours on the tour. So not a big time or money commitment. And go visit these three schools because they're three very different types of colleges. We've got ASU, which is a large public school. You can get a vibe for what that feels like. GCU, which is a mid-sized private college. You can get the vibe for what that one is. And then Arizona Christian University is a small private college. And it's about 1,000 students. When you visit Arizona Christian University, look at it through two lenses. The first lens to look at it is the size. It's a small school, 1,000 students, and that might be exactly what your student needs. Maybe your student wants a bigger college. So look at it through the size lens, but also look at it through the religious lens, because Arizona Christian University does require some religious things and things for those students to do, attend chapel services and stuff like that. So go visit those three schools because it's not a big time or money commitment, so that when you do go to Chicago and you visit DePaul, or you visit University of Chicago, or you visit Illinois Institute of Technology, now you've got something you can weigh, balance, compare, and contrast, and not get all starry-eyed the first time you visit a college. In fact, the first time or any time that you visit a college, if you and your student don't walk away with the impression of, wow, that college is amazing, know that they did a bad job. That's their job, is to sell you on their school. One of the categories that's ranked that I think is one of the most ridiculous is most expensive college. And Harvey Mudd College in Los Angeles, they are in the top criteria for one of the most expensive colleges, and they're hovering just shy of $100,000 for 1 year. So $98,900 for 1 year. NYU is in that same category, $96,988 for 1 year. And UCLA out-of-state cost is $80,700 per year. So in-state cost is about 35,000, and out-of-state can be anywhere from 50 to 100,000 for 1 year. If you really want to scare yourself, do this. Go to the college's website and in the search bar, type in cost of attendance, and then sometimes that page will have all the numbers already added, sometimes not. So pull out your calculator and add all those numbers together. And those numbers are going to be tuition, room and board, meal plan, dorm room, lab fees, etc., etc. Add all that together. And here's how you're going to scare yourself. Take that number and then multiply it times 4 years, and then multiply it again times the number of kids you've got, 2 kids, 3 kids, etc. That's enough to give anybody a coronary right there. And have you asked yourself, how in the world are we going to be able to afford it? And I've talked to thousands of families, and these are some of the strategies that they've told me as ways to pay for college that you might be thinking about as well. And always the first one that comes up is private scholarships. My kid's going to get a private scholarship. So let's put a definition of what private scholarship is. That is a scholarship that your student applies for and wins. If your student gets an email or a letter that says, congratulations, you've won this scholarship, and they did not apply for it, it's a scam. Especially if that letter says, mail us $100 and we'll tell you which one you've won. That is absolutely a scam. So the first thing is the student has to apply for it. And if they win that scholarship, it's portable. And what that means is they can take that scholarship over to NAU, they could take it over to University of San Diego, they could take it over to Texas A&M. It's portable that way. Versus if they won the Wildcat Scholarship at U of A, that's only usable at U of A. Now, of the $135 billion of aid that's available, less than 2% of that consist of private scholarships. Everybody wants to go after these private scholarship dollars when those are the pennies. I want to go after where the big money is, and the big money is going to be in these 3 categories. So write this down. The first category is going to be state funds. We want to maximize the amount of state funds that we can get. The second category is federal funds. We want to maximize the amount of federal aid that the federal government is going to give. And the third category, which is the big kahuna of the 3, is the college endowment funds. Now, several years back, the IRS approached some of these colleges and said, hey, you've got these huge endowments. And Harvard claims the #1 spot as being the wealthiest college with $45 billion, that's with a B, $45 billion in aid, or I'm sorry, $45 billion in their endowment. The IRS approached them and said, oh, you've got all this stuff here, we're going to tax that. And the colleges are like, whoa, wait a minute, we're going to give out more money. And so they are required to give out some of their endowment money. And that's what I want to go after, those big dollars there. The second category is a way to pay for college that parents have told me is my kid is an athlete. My kid's going to get an athletic scholarship. And I'm sorry to tell you this, that if your student is not the next NBA, NFL, or the next Olympian, the likelihood of getting a full athletic ride, probably not going to happen. If you go to the NCAA's website, you can look up these statistics. The average men's baseball scholarship is $13,000. That is way short of the total cost of attendance. Where's the remaining $25,000 or in some cases $80,000 going to come from? The other question we've got to ask with that men's baseball scholarship, even though it's $13,000, is the coach going to split it between 2 or 3 or 4 kids to kind of stretch those dollars even further? The next strategy that parents have told me is a way to pay for college is we've saved some money. And I read a statistic that the average family has saved $10,000 to apply for college. Now, if you save that or more than that, then God bless you, you're better than the average. Now the question is, if you did save that, how are we going to make 10 grand go where 100 or 400,000 should go? The other thing that we've got to ask is the money that you have saved for college, how does the financial aid system look at it? Are we going to get penalized for saving this money? And the answer is maybe. There are 3 buckets of money. The first bucket of money is money that's in the student's name, and that gets assessed at the highest percentage, anywhere from 20 to 25%. The second bucket of money is money that's in the parent's name, and that gets assessed at a lower percentage at about 6%. So sometimes just by rolling over who the owner is, no, the student's not the owner, the parent is the owner of this financial product, we could potentially qualify for more need-based financial aid. And then there's a third bucket, and that third bucket is the retirement system. So there's an umbrella over that, and any money that you have parked in the retirement system is not assessed. So we want to have the bulk of our money in that third category there. So sometimes by rolling over who the owner is, no, the student's not the owner, the parent is the owner, or from one financial product to a different financial product, we could potentially qualify for more need-based aid. Now, what about 529s? I've had families ask me that question. 529s are considered the asset of the parent. JD, thank you for telling me that, because we have a 529 and you said that student assets are hit between 20 and 25%, and parent assets are hit at 6%. Yes, that is all true. However, as soon as you expose to the college, I have a 529, they're going to go tag, that's my money, I want it, and they're going to split it into quarters. 25% the freshman year, 25% the sophomore year, etc., etc. I had a family who had $40,000 in a 529 account, and they were going to use that for college. And when this college in California found out that they had this $40,000, they split it into quarters, and they reduced his aid package his freshman year by $10,000. So we're being diligent with our savings. We don't want to get penalized for that. And there's some strategies that we can employ to shelter those assets. And we'll talk about that later on. Another strategy that parents have told me is we're going to pay as we go. Many colleges are starting to offer payment plans. And with some of the payment plans, there might be a fee to enroll into that payment plan. We need to check each of the colleges that your student has been admitted to determine what's the best course of action and the best way to pay for college after you've gotten all of your scholarships and all that stuff. And that's one of the meetings that we're going to have with parents, is talking about the best strategies on how to pay specifically for your situation and your scenario. Another strategy that parents have told me as a way to pay for college is we're going to borrow the money, and there's a loan called the PLUS loan, PLUS, and it stands for Parent Loan of Undergraduate Students. And theoretically, if a student is admitted to a college like Stanford at $95,000 per year, and that student is not offered any scholarships, that student will be offered $5,500 in a student loan, and then the remaining $89,500 could be offered to the parent in a Parent Plus loan. And then Stanford likes to boast, oh, we met all of your need. No, you didn't. You gave it to me in loans. So I just want to tell you what some colleges will do. And I've also seen this. We talk a lot about the rankings, and the rankings are extremely important to colleges. If a student is going to have not much of an impact on their rankings, then that college may offer more loans. If a student's going to have a great positive impact, they may offer less loans or no loans at all. I had another family who came in for the free consultation. That's something that I'll be offering at the end of our presentation. If you'd like to take me up on that, great. If not, that's fine too. One family came in for the free consultation and they wanted to know what the heck they were about to sign for. So here's kind of the process. When you apply to a college, you submit your application, and then you'll get a notification from the college that they said that they received your application, and then they'll send out an acceptance letter, and the acceptance letter is going to say, "Congratulations, you're admitted," or not. And if it says you're not admitted, that's not always the end of the story. We can appeal and negotiate with trying to reverse that decision, and I have been able to do that in some special circumstances. So you'll get an acceptance letter, and the acceptance letter might also say, "Congratulations, you're admitted." Sometimes on the acceptance letter, it might say, "We're giving you $1,000 in scholarships," or whatever. Anything that is offered on the acceptance letter is just that. It's a teaser. The next letter that they're going to send out, and the next letter could be 2 weeks later, could be 2 months later. And typically the award letter is sent out in February or March of your student's senior year of high school. And that award letter is going to read like an invoice, and it's going to list all the scholarships, all the grants, all the loans, any work study that's being offered, or anything else that might be offered will be listed on that award letter. Well, this family came in and they were showing me this award letter, and they were really excited, and they were showing it to me, and they said, "We're getting a $25,000 scholarship." And some colleges are really devious in their wording, because on the award letter it said PLUS $25,000. And I had to say, "I'm sorry, that is not a scholarship. That is actually a loan." And they didn't go to that college. And you can go to my website and click on testimonials and see what Courtney's mom posted. Courtney ended up going to a private college, and she graduated 100% debt free, and the parents did not take on any college student debt either. That's exactly where we want our students to graduate, is with as little or zero student loan debt. We don't want that baggage. The next strategy as a way to pay for college that some families have told me is, "We're going to use the equity in our home." I won't go into details on that. You know how that all works. And then the last one is liquidate retirement accounts. Please don't do that, because retirement accounts are for retirement and should not be used for college. Please don't throw out a college based only on the sticker price. Too many times I've had conversations with families and students and parents, and I'll make a suggestion, or maybe they've heard of a college and they look up that college and like, "Wow, that college is $80,000 per year or $90,000 per year." Please don't throw out a college based on the sticker price, the COA, that cost of attendance. Why? Because private colleges know that they must compete with in-state costs. And if a college really wants a certain student because they know that student will have a positive impact on their rankings, that college will make it financially viable for your student to attend their college by offering scholarships. And I showed you that example with Lynn just a few slides ago. So this is where we excel at AZ College Planning, is helping students identify colleges where they're going to stand out, and that college is going to tag that student and say, "Yes, we need this student because this student will have a positive impact on our rankings, and we are willing to give scholarships to entice the student to choose to come to our college." That is one area where we at azcollegeplanning.com really excel. An important question to ask every college is, what is the average timeline for students to graduate from your college? How long is it going to take my kid to graduate from your college? The average, you're not going to believe this, the average graduation timeline at a public college is 6 years, not 4, 6. And it's amazing. Why? Why is that? Well, first off, you can go to my website, azcollegeplanning.com, and click on college results, type in the name of a college, and it'll give you the statistical information. And this is ASU, and it says that the 6-year graduation rate is 66%. 66% of the students are taking 6 years to graduate. And the question is, why? Why? Well, one of the reasons why is because a student applies for a class. I need to get into this 100 level class before I get into the 200 level class. I need to get into this 200 level class before I can get into the 300 level class. And that class is full. And if that class is not offered the next semester, they have to wait until that cycle comes back around another year. That's one reason. And I do have a strategy on how to get into those full classes that we can talk about at a later point. That's one reason, is because classes are full. But the most prevalent reason is because a student changes majors. When a student flip-flops between majors, that pushes the graduation window out further and further. This week I'm a biology major. No, I'm going to be a philosophy major. That sounds really cool. No, architecture. I don't like architecture. I'm back over here. I'm undeclared. Every time a student changes majors, that pushes the graduation window out further and further. So one of the things that we do at AZ College Planning is we help students identify the major that they're going to study before they go to college. So that when they do go to college, they're solidified, this is the direction I want to go into, and they're less likely to change their major and change their mind. That right there, that one little thing right there, I guarantee you will save you $70,000. How do I say that? It's $37,000 a year for ASU for 1 year. If we multiply that times 2 years, and I'm just going to use 35,000 as an easy number, times 2 is $70,000. If your student can graduate in 4 years instead of 6, that is a $70,000 or more savings. And that's another area that we can help your student identify that career in that major. Plus, we'll help your student and look at your student's demographic, help them market and promote themselves to colleges. So the college says, yes, you will make a positive impact on our rankings. So here's my story. That's me. That's my high school senior picture. I look pretty much the same, couple years older. Glasses now. I remember walking into my high school guidance counselor's office. In her little tiny office, she had a little window in the very back. And I walk in there. Hi, Miss Nuss. Hi, JD. How are you? I'm fine. Go ahead and sit down. I sat down. JD, you're a good artist. You should be an art major. Okay. Next. And that's how much time I spent with my guidance counselor. No offense, they're overworked and overbooked. Well, I went home and I thought about it for all of about 37 seconds. And I thought, artists don't make any money. I got to do something else. And at that time, I had a friend who was a freshman at Biola University in Los Angeles, and I was talking to him on the phone, and he says, JD, you got to come to the school. It's so awesome. We have the most amazing, incredible beach bonfire parties. And yeah, we had some good beach bonfire parties. And he says, the girls are super cute. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm liking all that. And I asked him the question. I asked a student this question. Do they have a graphics department? And he says, yeah. And I said, dude, I'm in. And that's how much thought went into me picking my career, major, and college, and all of that. And I ended up going to Biola, and I was sitting in one of my classes, and my professor, Professor Craig, He says, JD, there's this internship opportunity. And this is what I really recommend for your student to do is develop rapport with the professors because the professors will tell you about opportunities. So Professor Craig said, JD, there's this internship opportunity, and I think you should apply for it. And if you do, I'll write your recommendation letter. I applied, he wrote it, and I got it. I did that in my junior year of college. And I got an internship at a graphics house and I realized I don't want to do this the rest of my life. And I had to reset and all that stuff. So we had AZ College Planning. We help students figure out what they want to study in college before they actually go to college. Do that research now while you're still in high school. There's two main financial aid forms, so we're going to move on to those. The first form is the FAFSA form, and the FAFSA was down today. I don't know what's going on. It is the free application for federal student aid. And then there's a second form called the CSS profile. And there are some similarities between these two forms, and there's also some extreme differences. The similarities is that the FAFSA and the CSS are going to ask you all the same financial numbers. What's your adjusted gross income? How much do you have in these various different accounts, etc. A difference between the two is the CSS profile does ask about your home equity. How much equity do you have in your house? And the FAFSA does not account for that. Another primary difference between the two forms is the FAFSA is free to submit, hence the name of it, and it is an acronym, Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And the CSS profile, and CSS stands for College Search Services Profile, which is administered by College Board. And College Board is the same entity that makes the SAT test, AP tests, PSAT, CLEP, and a few other things. And College Board also administers the CSS profile. There is a fee to submit the CSS profile, and it is $25 for the first college and $16 for each additional school. So if your student applies to 3 colleges that require the CSS profile, it's going to be $57. Okay. Just want you to know that as you're going in. When I'm having conversations with students and parents, sometimes I'll make recommendations. I think you should apply to this college because it is a CSS profile school and you'll get a lot of scholarship money. And then sometimes I'll make recommendations and say, if you apply to this college because of your specific scenario, it is a CSS profile school, you may or may not get any need-based financial aid at that school. Sometimes families come in and they say, we make too much money to qualify for aid, so why should we even do that? Why should we submit the FAFSA? Why should we submit the CSS profile? And the reason is because it's part of the game. And applying to college and getting scholarships is a game. And that's my job, is to educate you on the rules of the game. And one of those rules is demonstrated interest. Another way to demonstrate interest is to submit the FAFSA and the CSS profile financial aid forms. Another difference between the two is that the CSS profile in their supplemental section can ask whatever questions that they want. For example, one of the questions that some colleges ask in the supplemental section of the CSS profile is, what is the make, model, and year of your vehicles? JD, why are they asking me that question? Because if someone claims that their adjusted gross income is $60,000 and they're driving a 2026 Maybach, that doesn't match. They're going to ask more questions from that. Okay. So here's another, I've got a lot of stories to tell. Here's another story. John's dad hired me to help John And we helped him with his applications. We helped him with his essays. We showed him how to properly promote himself to colleges through demonstrating the interest. And John's dad says to me, we make too much money to qualify for any need-based aid. Why should we do this? And I said, please, it's part of the game. We want to do it. And we will help you with these forms. So we helped John's dad with these financial aid forms. And here's John's dad's background. His adjusted gross income for 1 year was $1.5 million. He had $5 million in his checking account, which blows my mind. Why park it there? Park it somewhere where we can get more than 0.5% interest. And then he had another $10 million in a brokerage account. He owned several $1 million homes, free and clear, just a very wealthy family. And based on that data, they're not going to get any need-based aid at any of certain types of colleges. So John applied to, and I can't remember which school it was. It was either Georgetown or it was George Washington University, one of the two George schools in the DC area, and which is predominantly a need-based aid only school. What that means is if the college determines that that student does not qualify for any need based on the college's formula, they're probably going to pay full price to go to that college. Well, we helped John and his dad to submit the forms and all that. The end of the story is John did get about $25,000-$30,000 in scholarships to go to that college because that college looked at John and says, yes, we need that specific student. And then they looked at dad and they're like, oh, dad might be a future donor later on. So we absolutely do want to play the game. Some colleges are going to require the FAFSA. Some colleges are going to require the CSS profile. Some colleges are going to require the FAFSA and the CSS profile. And then some colleges have their own proprietary form. We want to, whatever forms it is, we want to make sure that we're giving those to the colleges. I won't tell you the name of the college that's notorious for rejecting students because if they don't get everything that they want, and one of the things that this particular college wants is the CSS profile. I won't tell you the name of the college. I'll just give you their initials, USC. So USC is notorious for rejecting students if they don't submit all of the forms. And JD, why is that? Because USC is asking the question, if we admit your student, can you pay? So wait for it. The number one way to get more money from a college is apply to 6 to 15 colleges and negotiate. The thought is to apply to some reach colleges, some target schools, some safety schools, and all that. I don't agree with that because if a student applies to a reach college and is admitted to that reach college, they're probably going to pay a lot more money than they thought they were going to pay. Here's another story. When Danielle and her parents came into the office, I asked them a question and they hired us. And the question that I asked was, have you visited any colleges yet? And they're like, no, we haven't. And this was Danielle's at the beginning of her sophomore year of high school. No, we haven't visited any colleges yet. I'm like, go and visit some colleges. So dad says, we're going down to Tucson for a family vacation in a couple weeks. Why don't we go visit U of A while we're down there? I'm like, yes, do that. Anyway, I'll kind of shorten the story up a little bit. After Danielle visited U of A, she came back and said, that's the college I want to go to. It's awesome. And whoever did the presentation and was the tour guide, they did an amazing job because she says, I'm going to apply to that college. And that's the only school I'm going to apply to. And I encourage her, please apply to more than one college. Because if a student applies to one college and is admitted to that one college, other than that college saying yes, what else do they have to do to get that student to choose to go to their college? Nothing. But if that college now has to compete with 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or more colleges, then that one college must offer some form of incentive. So Daniel agreed. Yes, I'll apply to more colleges. Jump forward to March of her senior year of high school. We knew she was going to get admitted based on her grades, and her original award letter to go to U of A was 0. You want to come here? You've got to pay full price. Dad calls me up and, oh, by the way, this is not unusual for colleges to lowball. Certain colleges are notorious for lowballing, and U of A is one of those colleges. So dad calls me up, says she got admitted and she got no scholarships. What do we do? I said, what other colleges was she admitted to and what scholarships did she get? Oh, she was admitted to this college. She got some money there. She got admitted to this college and got some money there. She got admitted to NAU and got some money there. But she really wants to go to U of A. I said, take the NAU award letter, go down to U of A and say, they gave me this money. What can you do? Not only did they beat it, they also gave Danielle an iPad. Danielle was really excited about the iPad. Dad was more excited about the scholarships. If you ask a college if they will appeal and negotiate, they will flat out tell you, no, we don't do that. The hard reality is they actually will. Here's a few examples of our results. McConnell was admitted to NYU. He was offered $65,820 in scholarships per year. Parents' net cost, $8,914. He applied to 9 colleges. He was admitted to all of them. We showed him how to market himself to these colleges, how to promote himself to these colleges, and he got great scholarships from all of them. But NYU wanted him the most and gave him the most advantageous scholarship package. If we multiply that times 4 years, he was offered $263,280 in scholarships over the course of 4 years. Why? They wanted him. They knew that he would make a positive impact on their rankings, and he did not apply as a theater major. If you look at NYU, 40% of the students are theater majors. We got way too many of those. And McConnell applied as a real estate development major. And they're like, we need more of those because they want to have a diverse student population. I have to ask this question. What's good? Good is getting admitted to a college. What's better than that? Better than that would be getting a scholarship. What's better than getting admitted and getting a scholarship? Well, of course, getting a full tuition scholarship. When you talk to your friends or other students and they tell you that they got a full ride at ASU, U of A, or NAU, or any state college, be very skeptical. What they probably get, or what they probably got, was full tuition. Now, in the case of ASU being about $37,000, tuition is about $13,000. And if we subtract that, we still have a gap of $24,000. Where is that going to come from? I like the full tuition scholarships. Those are nice. But what's better than that? Of course, getting the coveted full ride. And the full ride, the only thing that parents pay for is transportation, getting your student from home to that college, whether it be bus or gas money or an airline ticket. That's the only thing that parents pay for when students win the coveted full ride. What's better than a full ride? This example here. What Rohit was offered, and I'll read it to you, all tuition mandatory fees for 4 years, $4,000 per semester, cash stipend, a $1,500 per semester on-campus housing stipend, and an up to $6,000 one-time award for international study abroad. What's better than getting a full ride? Getting paid to go to college. So after we add all these numbers and subtract it from the cost of attendance, this student was netting $3,000 per year to go to college. What's better than getting the coveted full ride? Of course, getting paid to go to college. If that is something that your student is interested or wants to aspire to try and earn, let's have a conversation. Let's schedule a free consultation and go from there. Here's another example. Nicole was admitted to WashU, $45,000 in scholarships, 11 grand parents net cost. She was an example of a student who did the work, was coachable, followed through, and got these amazing results. Multiply that times 4 years, $181,860 is what she earned over the course of 4 years in scholarships for that particular college. And we did some things strategically so that this family would qualify for more need-based financial aid, plus all the scholarships that she got. Bruce was admitted to Notre Dame, and when we had a conversation with Bruce's dad and Bruce and I in March and April of his senior year of high school, as he's narrowing down and choosing which college to attend, Notre Dame kind of rose to the top because they gave him the most advantageous scholarship package. And Dad said to me at that meeting, he said he thought that my tagline, "It could be cheaper to go to an out-of-state college than attend an in-state school," was just a sales pitch until we did it for his son. And then we did it again for his daughter. So if we multiply 51,000 times 4 years, $204,064 is what Bruce was offered over the course of 4 years to attend Notre Dame. And he really enjoyed his time there, especially being involved in marching band. And then, like I said, we did it again for Bruce's sister, Adele. She went to TCU, $216,820 over the course of 4 years. And she really enjoyed her time there. But JD, are all of these students super brainiacs? Have 4.0 GPAs and 1,600 SAT scores or perfect 36 ACT scores? No. Here's another example. Elle, I won't tell you her name, she went to Spring Hill College in Alabama. And after you add all the numbers, it was less expensive for her to go to this private college than it would have been for her to go in-state. And her background is she had a 2.3 GPA and she got some scholarship money for that. She also had some leadership and some other things that that college valued. And they looked at her and said, yes, she'll make a positive impact on our rankings. And that's why they gave her this amazing scholarship package. So you don't have to have perfect grades or perfect test scores. You just need to target the right colleges. And this is where we at azcollegeplanning.com can really help. We can also help with military academies. When Tanner came into the office, he said, my dream is to fly jets for the Air Force. I'm going to apply to the Air Force Academy, and that's the only school I'm going to apply to. I said, please apply to all the military academies and all the ROTC programs and have a backup plan. And he agreed to all that. Later, we had a meeting, and he said to me, JD, I've been doing some research on the Air Force's website, and the minimum ACT score is 24. I have a 25. What do you think? I said, they're going to take your application and throw it in the trash because you're just barely above the minimum. So we plugged him into our program called Beat the Test. And in the Beat the Test program, we teach strategies on how to beat the test. The end result was he had a 29 ACT score, amazing, got into Kings Point, he got into the Merchant Marine Academy in Kings Point, New York. And when they were handing out assignments, they're like, where do you want to go? He says Air Force, and he was flying jets for the Air Force. Jonathan, I love this story about Jonathan. Jonathan applied to a handful of colleges, and George Fox University in Portland, Oregon, kind of rose to the top. And at the end of his senior year of high school, we were having a roundtable conversation, Jonathan, his parents, and I. And his parents said, we are willing to give you X dollars for you to go to college. Anything above that is going to be on you, Jonathan. Scholarships, grants, loans, whatever. And we were looking at his award letter and what his parents were willing to spend and what the college was offering in scholarships. We had a $5,000 gap. So Jonathan says to me, I've got an idea. I'll call the college and I'll defer admission. Yes, you can do that at almost every college. And deferred admission means they will hold your spot for 1 year, and then you it's almost like a gap year. You've probably heard that term, gap year. Deferred admission is kind of a similar idea that they'll hold your spot for a year, and then you attend a year later. So Jonathan says, I'll defer admission. I'll go get a job. I'll save up $5,000 and then I'll go to college the next year. I'm like, then what? You'll take another year off and work again and save up another 5,000 and go to school and then take 8 years to graduate? No. Here's what I'd like you to do, Jonathan. I'd like you to call your admission representative at your college. Do you know who your admission representative is? So now I'm asking Jonathan loaded questions because we had already instructed him on how to find out who his admissions recruiter was. He says, oh, yeah, I know who that is. I said, call them up on the phone, and this is what I want you to say. Don't email, call them and say this. Thank you very much for admitting me. My parents are willing to spend some money for me to go to college. And based on what they're willing to spend and what you've offered me in scholarships, thank you for those scholarships. What the difference between that, we're short $5,000. What can we do? And poof, magically, the college gave them or gave Jonathan an additional $5,000 per year to go to college, and he graduated in 4 years, not 8. Was that 5-10 minute phone call worth it? Yeah, because it was a $20,000 phone call. Cole went to La Tech. He got 100% of tuition plus a little bit extra. And Chad went to Vandy, $231,000. When I was helping Chad, his mom pulls me aside and says, don't encourage him to apply to Vanderbilt because we can't afford it. And I said, play the game. And the story is he got this amazing scholarship package, and it cost the parents about $5,000 per year for him to go to Vandy. And I got a very nice email from Chad's mom after that. Another student at TCU, $212,000. And this student graduated 100% debt free. I'm really excited about him because he used the career assessment, or I'm sorry, he used the career placement, the career center at the college, and through that landed a couple internships. And those internships ended up leading him to a job, and he ended up getting a job at a financial institution in Denver, Colorado, making some really good money. Super excited for him and his life. And then I've got another student. Well, what about in-state schools? Yeah, we can help out with that as well. Trevor went to NAU. He graduated on time, 4 years, and he graduated 100% debt free. Again, that's exactly what we want our students to graduate with zero debt or as low as possible. Jared, IIT, $39,900 in scholarships times 4 years, $159,000. And I literally have hundreds of these examples. Loyola Chicago, we appealed and they increased the aid by $2,000 per year. So $2,000, $4,000, $6,000, $8,000. That was a nice increase with that. And I want to help tell your student's success story. And this is how we're going to do it. The services we provide are one-on-one meetings, and we help by offering these personalized one-on-one meetings, personalized, compassionate guidance with motivating support that keeps your student on track and confident in their college journey. And then we also have parent meetings. The parent meetings be more on the financial side, looking at your numbers and offering some suggestions on that. And then we also host a variety of different classes, and the classes complement the one-on-one meetings. I've already mentioned the Beat the Test class, We have a how to study class, the promotion influencer class, the resume builder class, the essay and application class, a couple parent classes, and more. If you would like a complimentary, free, no obligation college consultation, then either click on the link or send us an email. And my email is jd@azcollegeplan.com. Please include a phone number that you can be reached at during the day and include the year that your student is going to graduate from high school. So if you would like that, please send me that email. Here's a text message I got from Noah this last year. Super excited for him. And I'll read it to you. I got into Georgia Tech. Thank you for the 10-week plan you gave me. It helped me get into my dream school, which means a ton. I'll be attending Georgia Tech in the fall. And I got $32,000 per year. It was the best aid I got outside of ASU. So he did the work, followed the plan, and got some amazing results. Was it worth it for this family to hire me? Absolutely. Absolutely. Now you only get one shot at this, getting college right. Don't leave it to chance. We are the nation's leading experts in admission and financial aid, guiding families with proven results since 2007. We are family focused. When I really want to tell you this, and I don't want it to sound cheesy. I really care about the students that we help. I really care about them a lot. And I want to see them succeed in college, get into the best colleges, get the best aid package they can, graduate in 4 years with a degree that they can, with a degree that is viable, that they can become a productive member in society. That is my hope and my goal and my wish for every student that comes through our doors. So if you would like to explore how we can make a real measurable difference with a college admission and college scholarships, please send me an email, jd@azcollegeplanning.com. Include your name and include a daytime phone number that we can reach you at, and include your student's high school graduation year. And I'll reach out to you to schedule the free, no obligation college consultation. If you don't want that, that's fine. I hope I gave you some great information. But if you would like to explore seeing how we can really make a positive impact on you and your student, then please send us an email, jd@azcollegeplanning.com. Thank you very much for attending, and have a wonderful rest of your evening.